maps during the crisis. During the sorry, I get the purpose of records. During the crisis, the production of map, we are maintaining the georeferential data set that is used into the various transactional system and database at the ICRC. We are providing support to our colleagues with GeoAdvice, developing a lot of web mapping application. We are as well working with drone and satellite imagery. And from time to time, when it's possible, we are supporting authorities. So you see it's a large panel of services that we are providing internally. Along the geodata cycle, it's true that we are mainly collecting data source and internal and external data source. We are as well doing some data processes. Visualization is a key aspect of the data, right? Through geoportal, static maps, and web application. And of course, we are developing the analysis with the geopoint, typically with heatmap, overlay, intersection buffering, and so on. So that's in a nutshell the services. One of the key aspects that we would like to do is to map the location of the national society structure. And I will explain why. The main purpose is really first to increase the first response by the field teams. Because our management at the ICRC is always asking, okay, with whom we could work and where they are. So that's also something that is really important for us. The other second key aspect is the security. It's related to the security and it's related to the notification to the stakeholders to say that typically here we have some national society presence. Please don't send shelling to this location. It's protected by the IHL. Of course, it's to have more information and more data about the national society and the Red Cross movement. It is helping us to manage the ICRC referential geodatabase. So that means that other applications are able to use search referential within the ICRC tools, right? It supports the operation in the field. And last but not least, we have two projects at the ICRC. The first one is called Red Loop, where it's really related to the cooperation division, where they are collecting and whenever there is some transaction between the different national societies, they are enriching a database. And another aspect, we are developing an application for beneficiaries. Typically now it will be on a pilot phase in between Mozambique and South Africa. This application is called Red Safe, where you provide some head of services through mobile device, and of course it will be good to be able to provide location of the branches of the antenna of the Red Cross Red Crescent structure to those beneficiaries. The challenge is for us as a ICRC, it's this data mining and data gathering. It's really time consuming. We should really optimize the workflow. We have as well to coordinate between, when we work through the movement between the different partners, right? We have different format of the data set when we are already collaborating, and you will see with Maz what we already done. This different data set needs an harmonization. And one of the key challenges, especially if we expose such data, is the data accuracy, the data quality. So it's true that the gathering data is that much relevant data model is for legacy as well. So you see different challenges. We already did something internally. You will see this, but I will leave Maz continuing on the process. Maz, don't hesitate to complement if I miss something.
Thank you, Yann. When we talk about mapping the national society structures, we must think about the scale, right? So we have to put some levels in the data models. So let's take, for example, a country. Let's take France, for example. Paris could be a level 1 national society. structure, and it could correspond to the HQ. A level 2 would be the city of Lyon with a provincial branch, and then a level 3 would be more of a district branch. So, for example, the local Red Cross delegation in Grenoble, for example, a city not too far away from Lyon. And then we could have a level 4, which would correspond to a smaller unit in some more remote area. And so it's always interesting to scale the level and the branch definition in order to be more efficient in terms of response and in terms of coordination. So if you could move the slide, because I don't have the, please, thank you so much. And here's the movement that we have currently mapped. We have more than 2,674 points mapped so far. There's more data that we received and we have to input in there. So of course it's still partially updated, such as the American Red Cross. We got some data from South Africa, and all this incredible work is happening at this very moment, and it's very exciting work. Just if we can move to the next slide. Thank you. When we think of mapping, we also think of geo-visualization. People tend to use this new term to call visualizing using geo-information. And here's a prototype of how it could look in our internal tools. Of course, symbology needs some, and to be more enhanced, it needs some work. And it needs, for example, some clustering enabled, etc. But this is visual on our new geo portal, who's currently in a test phase. So everything seems new and fresh, but it's going to get better, a lot better. Now let's jump to the how. First, we did receive some data before from partners, from the national studies themselves. We also got some data from our field officers that we have in the field. And since February, we have launched this new collaborative project where we teamed up with some friends from Garto-NG and MSF and some awesome volunteers to really help us manually data mine the ICRC structure. A big thanks to Roxana, who's currently in chat also from MSF, who's also working a lot on this project. We like to call this project data mining, which is a fun word for gathering data in a community. Since it could be difficult to map every single point on our own here at the ICRC for reasons we have told earlier. The workflow looks like an octopus, of course, but trust me, it's very simple. In fact, the volunteers start gather data on their own research, on national site websites, on humanitarian data exchange websites. It could also be through geocoding, through some geolocating addresses, or simply going on a map and importing points from there. And the goal of this workflow is to diversify the sources we can go to and not have one source. So it would be basically to get the best quality data possible that we could get.
So I'm continuing. Huh? Yeah, I will take over. So you have seen that through the sample. So from us, we are rich database already, but so far the work was not really done within the movement. And the idea is really that search referential data set is used and maintained by the movement. So the key question will be around the data maintenance and the data transfer and the data initialization. I would say it's how can we contribute, or can you contribute to provide data in order to fill the missing part of the puzzle, or to validate, I would say, this data. So that means that we have as well to find a location on where to host source data. So that's mainly a data governance issue. And for us, so far, the project was mainly initiated by technical colleagues, technical people. So it's that we will have to gear up and to ensure that everything will be on track. So that's why so far it's protected and at the level of the ICRC. How could we harmonize our data model? So it's true that so far for us, we are really focused on the minimal of the geolocation part. So typically it's a name, a location, a street address, of course, a coordinates, and as you have seen, a classification at the hierarchy level. And one of the aspects and the challenge for us is to see the parent child and relations. So this is something that we did it partially with the geolocation, but of course, with your field knowledge, it will be much more better. After, there is as well the question of what should we do? In terms of data sharing, should we share it a bit more widely through different platforms, openly through OpenStreetMap or even with Google, because the idea is as well to give a visibility of the work and the location of the National Society. So maybe if you see a National Society antenna or a district branch in your map as a user, maybe you might intend to contact them at one point or to become a volunteer as well. And one of the key questions is as well the integration of the participating national society. So typically, well, let's say you have a Swedish Red Cross that is working in South Sudan. So how should we map them? How should we map the infrastructure? Because this is something that is much more volatile. It's much more, well, it's changing quite a lot. And however, they are contributing a lot. And for us at the ICRC, in some of when I was mentioning that we are sharing location of the stakeholders to the stakeholders, sorry, of the conflict, this is a question that is crucial for us. Well, so this is some ideas of discussion. We will be happy to hear you. I guess that George already maybe have some quick question. I will maybe give the floor to the moderation. Thank you for your audience.
Thank you, Yann and Maz, for that. The forum is open. I have opened the chat. Please feel free to add any questions that you may have there, or if you want to come off of mute or come off of your camera, you're welcome to ask any questions. It is open. It's an open mic floor now, so please ask away if you have anything. Sometimes asking the first question is the hardest to do. So I have a couple of questions for myself. Maybe that will spark some other questions. So I guess Yann and Maz, the question I have is, if you were to pick the biggest challenge in this project, and it could be a technology challenge, it could be a people challenge, organizational challenge, political challenge, what would you say the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome that perhaps you didn't quite plan for or didn't expect to happen? Maybe you planned for it, but you didn't expect it to be as big of a hurdle as you thought.
Yeah, for me, the biggest hurdle is really something that is related to the data governance and political acceptance. Again, some of coordination between the movement, because maybe some of the national societies don't want to be fully mapped, and we could respect that. Yeah, I would say that it will be around this, because technically I would say we are ready to work, because you have seen through the sample of Maz and with the other volunteers, not the National Society volunteers, we managed to work and to collaborate. And then of course it's the quality of the data, because if your data is not correct, for sure it will not be used. Maz, you want to complement or to say something else?
Absolutely. It's just what you said. It's coordination between different partners, data sharing. That's the hardest part. Yeah.
And when you say the data sharing and the collaboration with the partners, is it that when you say data sharing, is there reluctance with maybe other partners to share their data, or is it just about security or governance? What are the components that make sharing the data so challenging?
They should really see the benefits, I would say. So that's why we are here, in fact, to show that it's not just a location on the map. It's something that could be used through different value system, and it's a kind of address book, because so far we didn't have any yellow book. So you say, okay, I'm going to, let's say, Burkina Faso. Where are the national society branches? I don't have any ID, in fact. So the idea is really to, well, let's go to the question, but yeah, to ensure that there is a common and open access, not only to the national society, because the idea is to enlarge, I would say, or for me, I still have this idea of at one day to the open data. As the ICRC, we should really work a bit more into this direction, and that could be something. And then, of course, you could imagine with a different level of rights that colleagues from the movement are able to edit, and you could, as well as we are doing with the ICRC, if you think that it's too sensible to share the data at one point, you could maybe downgrade the location, or you could hide some attributes according to the level of different data model. But so far for us, the data model is really simple. It's again, it's a type of national society, it's a level, a location, an address, and parent child.
Wonderful. Before we get to you, Johnny, I see your hand is raised. I noticed in the chat, Cynthia, you agree with Yann. If you have anything else you wanted to mention, or it's just an agreement, but I wanted to give you a chance to speak.
Thank you so much. Let me see if I can start my video as well. Well, I work closely with Yann and Maz, and this topic, it's really, I'm a movement data coordinator with ICRC, and I completely agree with Yann. When you ask for challenge, I was ready to step in if Yann wouldn't come up with this, because I think that it's really the highest one. It's not on the technical level, but really in terms of governance and alignment. And when you were saying about anticipating, it's really, I would say that it's really related to security and to governance. So it's not about the technical level, and it's where fortunately with great colleagues we are pushing to go forward. But it's really to ensure that there is a governance within the movement and an alignment in terms of as well the level of security that we have to ensure, so that of course after we can go forward with sharing data in the proper way and ensuring the data quality. Thanks.
Thank
I don't know
you.
if you have other questions.
Johnny has had his hand raised, so I want to make sure Johnny, hello. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I've worked with a few of you before, Yann. We've had conversations about this, so great to see it all summarized. I totally agree with the need for incentives to get data from the national societies, because it's just another data point they have to provide otherwise, but really showing the value of it means that they have a reason to give the data in the first place. I was just wondering, like, I've looked at the data before, it's impressive how many you have. I was just wondering if you had more information of how you've got what you have so far, what have been the main mechanisms for the ones that you've got, because it's quite a challenge to get this data from 192 national societies.
I can explain what we already did internally, and it's as well internally at the ICRC. It's a challenge because at the ICRC we already have 3 sources of layers of information about the location of the national society. So we have for instance, the database from Cynthia, right? A list of national society. We have the GIS database. That's something that that's the most complete data set, because we are working on it since 10 years. And we have, I would say, the logistic database called, we call it internally the recipient places. So it's basically where we are delivering support and services through the national societies. And already through this, we are now consolidating into this data set, because so far as the ICRC, we don't have one unique source of georeferential that is needed for the project of, as presented, of Red Loop, led by Cynthia. So it's true that the idea is, the way I see it, I will say that once this data is partially it's finalized and completed, we could imagine to, well, I will be more than happy to transfer such data and to find some mechanism to be hosted with ICRC, with you, Johnny, and then the data quality and the data enrichment could be done by each national societies. Of course, we will have to think, as I mentioned, by this PNS, because I think that for us as ICRC, it's one of the challenge. And technically, after we will be able to replicate or to synchronize with what we already have at the ICRC. So again, but having a common pool for the movement of national society location will make sense. So it could be hosted even through again, if we are once we are okay, once the management is okay, through the Argus Online platform, or it could be hosted by the ICRC if needed at one point. Of course, it will be better if it will be the ICRC, but we should have one unique source of data, because otherwise it will be a nightmare.
Yeah, thanks. Totally agree. So you say you had the 3 existing databases, or perhaps more. Like the data is like super detailed in some countries and then missing from others. Is that just like dependent on where the ICRC has been active and things?
Exactly. As the ICRC is mainly working, as you know, into the armed conflict areas, for sure, our data set is more completed into those locations. However, like in Nepal, for instance, now we are not anymore really operational. The data set is really weak, I would say. So the idea is really to complement according to the mandate those locations, and we should have something that will be all over the world, ideally.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, fingers crossed we can progress it. We're looking at potentially incorporating it into Go, both as accessible, potentially even data collection, but it's quite a long way away. But yeah, we are exploring internally how we can approach this as well. Thanks for sharing.
This is actually a question for Yann and for Johnny as well, is how do you ensure, with all the data set points, how do you ensure security? Because if the data is housed in different locations, there's probably different security gates or different security measures in place. And how do you plan for risk of that data being exposed or maybe used the wrong way, or maybe it's not an issue at all? But I'm just curious on both your perspectives of how you maintain. There's the data integrity, which is the purity of the data, and then there's the security of the data. So maybe now I've got 2 questions. With all the disparate data around the world, how do you make sure it's maintained, integrity and secure at the same time? Or is this something we need to figure out?
I'm happy to initially start.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I would say it's something from our side, is something we still need to figure out. It's the push to be open where possible. Like Yann, you mentioned adding it to OpenStreetMap and to have it on Go so that anybody can see it is the ideal, but obviously it's not as simple as that, especially perhaps in conflict zones. There may be sensitivities from displaying it so openly with all the information. I don't know, I'd probably hand over to Yann then, who's probably thought about it more at that stage, but yeah, it's definitely...
One of the aspects, again, on the data integrity, I can share as well something that is relatively interesting. It's more a story. It's typically, we changed the office in Jerusalem some years ago, and this location was put into Google, and it was really difficult for us to request to change the address. And in fact, something that is funny, it's Google, even if it's probably the most high-tech technology, they sent us a postcard, paper postcard, to validate the change of the address. And it takes almost 1 year. So that means that's why we should really think it on where we post those data to have something that is open, something that could be managed, I will say mainly by the volunteers. And then, because we are the owner of the data, and then we decide where we would like to replicate. Of course, on the use of the data, as soon as it's a public domain or something that is visible, we could not control, I would say, what is done with such data. With the ICRC, we will follow, of course, do not harm more with the data. So that's also something that we really have to take into account. Just to let you know, here, this presentation is really about the first public presentation that we had. We are presenting. We had some discussion with Cynthia. We had already some discussion with the ICRC. The idea is just to push it further, following the best practices of data sharing, of data integration. Maybe we will have to go into a ICRC project mode. I don't know, but the idea is what's really to expose the needs to have a central repository of a national society location.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Other questions from anyone on the floor? We have 14 participants now. The word must be spreading that this is a hot topic. Is there anyone who wants to raise? I have a couple thumbs up here. Anyone who wants to ask this group a question at all? Please don't be shy. This is really great. Oh, did I hear someone? No?
Okay, sorry. The question I wanted to ask, well, anyway, it's already been asked by you, who's this, from the academy. However, my other question is, you were presenting geodata, right? And I'm just curious. I'm just curious about the geodata. Does that geodata include as the Pacific too, or only your side or only from your globe of the world? No, this one. Does it include everyone or only part of the Red Cross are including in it? Like asking here, we're from the South Pacific. So have you guys brought us into?
You can continue. I think that was just an audio glitch. Please continue.
Okay. So no, I'm just querying. Is this geodata included also as the Pacific, or it's not yet completed? That's what I just wanted to know.
It's far to be completed. As you see on the map, the more symbols you have and the higher the density, it's more complete is, I would say, the country. Huh? So you see, Myanmar, we are good. Eastern Africa, we are not bad. South America, we are good. However, you see in Asia, we just have the main branches, I would say, of the district capital, but we don't have this level of hierarchy, right? So feel free to share what you have in case of you have such a location, and we will be more than happy to be integrated within the ICRC database. And of course, after, as you are contributing, I will be more than happy to share it for now in the beginning with you. But yeah, you see, we don't have any, the density is really low. So happy to get your input or support for search data collection.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question I just wanted to ask was, you on your last slide, you were mentioning about if we can share this in our domain name. I think, respectively, if you have a website based focusing on geodata on your last slide, yeah, how to transfer such data to the movement domain. I don't think that's possible, but what I believe, if we have a cloud for it, where where certain people can access to it, monitoring by you, I think that will be the best way of security. As we're talking about security wise, I think that's one way of doing security is by providing doing cloud computing in order to store such a massive important data. However, I know this is a real big project for you people, and I do see it as I am really interested in looking in this. And however, in additional to it, I think in order for us to input, I'm from Tuvalu, so in order for us to input our our data into our geodata for this, I think if you can come up with creating a website where we can enter, where we can enter longitude and latitude, and that website can also be seen by you. So we'll send it to you, and I think that is one way you can add all. You can have all this geodata information from four sides of the world. And however, thank you for your input, and I'm really interested to hear more or any updates on this. Thank you.
Thank you. What we could do is we could maybe on a bilateral, you have my email address or the email address from Maz. You could contact us. And what we will give to you, we'll give you a link, and you could use probably the exact same workflow to be confirmed with Roxana, but we'll find a way. Then you will be able to use this platform that was used by those volunteers, right, to put their location. We did the exercise for Zimbabwe, Burkina, and I can't recall which country. So you could do the same for Tuvalu, for instance. Right. So don't hesitate to liaise with us through your Maz or myself, and then we will find a way to propose use this website for data consolidation. But clearly the need is to have search interface hosted by the Federation or ICRC that is widely used by the National Society members to maintain and to edit the data. Yeah, one entry stop point.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll be looking forward to send me that link, and I'm happy to work with you guys side by side. Yeah, just a bit of a background about me. I'm just working as an assistant climate change and disaster management officer. I'm assisting we have our senior climate change and disaster management. However, I'm just assisting him. So yeah, but theoretically and practically, I'm in information technology and computing science person by background and qualification as well. So thank you very much for this. Yes, I am looking forward to work side by side with you in order to improve our ICRC geodata, and I am looking forward for updates on this geodata project. Thank you very much, and for us here it's evening, and I know it's morning from you guys. So for me, I can just say evening to you people, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for your question.
Yes, and good evening for you. I have one final question, and it's more of a sit back and sort of ponder question. If you had to start this entire project over from the beginning, knowing what you know now, and knowing sort of the things that you would have to navigate through and figure out, what would be two things? It's always easy to pick one, but I'll make you pick two. What are two things that you would do differently if you had to start this project all over again? You could tell, share both Yann, yourself, and then we'll go to Maz as well to share for the group. Thanks. No pressure.
Could you specify the question again, please?
Sure, of course, happy to. So if you had to start the project over again, and you know the journey you've been through, is there anything you would do differently if you had to start over? Because now you have exposure and experience to what worked and what didn't. What are two things you would do differently if you had to do the project again?
So I think the first thing we would want to do in this project when we launched it, because we truly pushed it back in February this year, and all before was just data gathering and stuff on our side. But what we would do differently is maybe we would try to communicate more on it. I know we have done some communication on this before a little bit, but it didn't reach the audience that much as we would have expected to reach. So I think the communication part would be interesting to talk about this more, maybe internally and even outside, especially outside, now that we're collaborating with all these amazing people from all these different organizations. I think, yeah, so the first point would be maybe to communicate more on it. And the second one would be to get more data accuracy. So I know that the challenge with this is that, and it was pointed out a bit earlier, is that we get data from pretty much everywhere. So from national studies, we can get data from geolocation, etc. So how do we make sure that the data we get is accurate enough, right? Sometimes we would just get a point on a map in a city, and it wouldn't be the exact street of the structure, and we would be adding this to a database that has really good accuracy. So how do you make sure that the data is harmonized in terms of geolocation accuracy or data accuracy? In fact, maybe Yann can add something on that if he has something, but that's my 2 points.
Oh, Yann, apologies. I think you're on mute still.
Sorry. From my side,
okay.
yeah, sorry. From my side, I will go more like a bit with Maz, of course, on the communication, but more on the project side, and to ensure that we have a strong sponsor to lead this project and to carry out this. Because so far, again, as I mentioned, it was something that's done technically. Some years ago, we exchanged some lists of National Society location with American Red Cross. They had a Google Docs document, but it's always based on the good willing, in fact. That's maybe part of the movement, of the voluntary basis and so on, but we need, and that's also something that we have to continue to work on this direction, to have some strong sponsor that will help us really to not put it mandatory, but to advise strongly to contribute to such a database. Voilà.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Any other questions from anyone?
Sorry, just one more from this side. It's not a question, it's just a request. Can you please email us your presentation? So next time when we come back to this, it's easy for us to follow from this presentation to your next presentation, please. I think that's the only thing I want to ask, please.
Yes,
I'm just
apologies,
waiting for your
Yann.
presentation, please. Thank you.
No problem. Yann, you were on mute there.
Oh, sorry. What I wanted to ask, if it's possible, if we can have your presentation. So next time we are on again, we can just follow from this presentation to your next presentation. So we are not lost in track for the next time we meet again. That's the only thing I wanted to ask. Thank you very much for your cooperation. If that's allowed, if you're willing to give us your presentation. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. By the way, George, all those presentations will be available somewhere, or?
Yes, we will
Yes.
circulate the presentation, and for the rest of the group, I see that he has provided his email in the chat, which is here. So thank you for providing your email. And this session also has a recording to it. So if anyone would wish to access that, the whole thing has been recorded all the way through, including the conversation that we're having now. This will not be shared outside of the IFRC, and because it's an internal group, anyone can have access to it. So you're more than welcome to have a copy of it. Just make sure you have a big file, because these tend to be very large. Any other questions from the group? It looks like we don't. Well, we have about 15 minutes, and one thing that I could share is I have a second video, a second demo. I have a colleague who has put together a very interesting demo with the Solferino Academy, which I'm happy to share. I have a little bit of background on this project that they've provided me, and a video. My apologies, as this person couldn't come today because of their unavailability. So I won't be able to answer any questions regarding, the deep components of it. But what I can do is I can take your email addresses and I will write them to Sarah. So if that's all right with everyone, I will just quickly put up a script here. I am just going to Yann and Maz, I'm going to just take you off of your co-host permissions here. Did we lose Yann? Oh no, he's still here. Great, and you're still here as well. So, and I am hopefully the one that everyone's seeing now. Just quickly, I will read out this. I have a video to share, but beforehand, I just wanted to give a little bit of background on this project. So, and it's about a 2.5 minute video. So this is done by Sarah with the Solferino Academy, and this is part of her PhD. A little bit of background that I'll read. So in the past year, in an already precarious situation, we saw, health services overstretched, shortages in medication and medical supplies, and food security being deteriorated due to the sharp economic crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic, further exacerbated this, and subsequently in Beirut, the port explosion on August 4th, 2020, just incurred, further damages to the city of Beirut. So as part of her project, she had a few goals that she wanted to share with everyone. One is to surface social innovation in service delivery with certain youth-led organizations. In Lebanon was the first one, and second, to support the structuring, propagating it through digital mediums. This project was done with approximately 30 young public health volunteers, with the goal of aiming to provide better health awareness to the marginalized communities based in Lebanon. And through their work, they proposed a model of service provision, and they did this by decentralizing healthcare provision, connecting public health and medical volunteers to different disadvantaged communities in Lebanon. She was able to work with Open Lab and develop essentially a website that is able to match volunteers and community needs within their vicinity. The website is in 2 pages. One is for volunteers to fill out a survey describing their profile and specifying the services they can provide, and to pin themselves on this website map. And the other is for NGOs and community groups to specify the needs of the communities they work with, and to pin them subsequently on the map. And then through WhatsApp, they were able to coordinate the process by sort of establishing a network of volunteers and directing them to various community needs. So almost a build on the presentation we last saw. And the website was very useful after this Beirut explosion because it gave visibility to many causes and was able to connect stakeholders to support and relief on the ground. So that's a little bit of background on the project. But I have a very compelling video. It's Sarah's voice. I will turn it up as loud as I can. Unfortunately, it might be a little bit low for some of you, so I apologize for that. But it's very interesting to see sort of how she's put this together. So I will share my screen now, and we will put this on. I hope everyone can see this okay. I'm just going to turn up the sound. Here we go.
Today I'm going to show you how to use the For All Causes community map that was developed between For All Causes and Open Lab at Newcastle University. For All Causes is an organization that's based in Lebanon that is particularly focused on health services delivery for underprivileged communities and changing the health narrative in Lebanon. In order to access the map, you will have to go to the website lebanon.make.place. Once you've opened the website, you will find a map of Lebanon. To know more about the map, you can press on Info to read the description about it. In order to participate, you will have to press on Login. If you do not have an account, you need to register one. If you do, you can just log in using the credentials that you've created for this account. Once you've logged in, you're going to find two tabs, one for volunteers and one for NGOs. If you are a volunteer, you can press on the Volunteer tab. As you can see, there are multiple pins representing volunteers. In order to participate yourself, you have to first determine your location. Once you have your location, you press on Add Response and pin yourself in that exact location. You will get a survey that you need to fill. The survey will ask you about your educational background, employment status, specific skills, and the time that you have available for volunteering, and any other important information that you would like to convey. And finally, it will ask you to provide with your contact information. Once you submit your survey, you will find yourself as a pin with all your information displayed. If you are an NGO or a group, you can go to the NGO's needs map. This page is specifically for NGOs to specify their needs. First of all, you will also have to select your location and press Add Response. Once you've set your location, you can also fill your NGO profile, contact information, specific needs and the communities you work with, and what are the services that you currently offer. Once you press Submit, you will also find a pin representing your NGO. The purpose of this map is to match between volunteers and NGOs or community needs. If volunteers are looking for community needs or NGOs to work with, they can go to the NGO needs map. If NGOs or groups are looking for volunteers that they can ask for their services, they can go to the volunteer map and check them by region and by area. This map can be tailored to any country and can be changed depending on the purpose requested. Thank you for watching.
And we'll stop sharing that now. So that's from Sarah Aramouche, who is head of youth innovation culture with Solferino Academy. I'm happy to take any questions on that. Unfortunately, I can't answer them myself because you can hear in the demonstration that's her voice, and this is her idea that she's created. But if there are any questions around that, I'm happy to capture those and take them back to her, and she would be happy to answer. She will hopefully be on the open demos tomorrow, which we'll show again. With a few minutes to go, I just wanted to say one more time, thank you to everyone. And if there's any other questions or any comments, suggestions that anyone wants to bring up, please don't be shy. Now is the time. Thank you, Cynthia, for commenting, and you have a nice day as well. And Jerome, thank you as well. So it sounds like there are no more questions. one thing we do like to do before we end is, if possible, if you have the bandwidth, is to have everyone come off of, turn on their cameras, and we're doing a quick screenshot to wave, just so we can see everyone and meet everyone right before the end of the session. So thank you, Maz. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, everyone. And very much appreciate the time. So, I will capture that, Yann, that question for everyone. I'm not sure if you wanted to ask that now. You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, just a question about this platform, because for me it seems to look really close to what was done some years ago with the USHID. So it's a kind of idea to revamp USHID platform, or just be a bit interested by this, because it was really too much what are the needs versus the offers, and I'm just a bit curious. That's it.
Sure, happy to. I will capture that. We have 6 minutes to go, so thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Good afternoon, and enjoy the rest of Data and Digital Week. Thank you for your participation.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.